is my pleasure to introduce to you Greg Bondar, the CEO of Every Home for Christ in Australia and in New Zealand and the UK. Greg, please introduce yourself to us, and we'd love to hear your message this evening.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and I'm assuming everybody can hear me okay. I have to tell you, I've just returned back from New Zealand on Saturday night, and I was at a lovely place called Tauranga. So, Laurie, I didn't catch up with you, but had I known you were there, I would have said hello. But I stayed at a place called Trinity Wharf, where we held our New Zealand Every Home for Christ board meeting. So it was very appropriate, and I think I might found God's country actually, Laurie, in Tauranga. So I might be back. Elizabeth, thank you so much. Thank you all the people that have joined me. I want to talk to you quickly about Every Home for Christ, and most of you should know who we are, but if you don't, last year we celebrated our 50th anniversary in Australia, and our message is fairly simple. And that is that our mission that we carry the message of Christ to everyone, everywhere, every generation. And of course, filled with that is to empower the church to take Christ to its own people. One of the things I should mention to you is that our organisation has two arms to it. Every Home for Christ is our evangelical arm, where we spread the word of the gospel worldwide and in Australia, of course. But very quickly, I should mention also that we have Every Home Global Concern, and that is our charity, our tax-deductible organisation, where we provide humanitarian aid to over 11 countries in the Asia-Pacific region. Now, it's important because our Australian government won't allow us to provide humanitarian aid and call it tax-deductible if we're also preaching the gospel. So we've got two arms to our organisation. But what we do is through our humanitarian aid, we spread the gospel. For example, we've built a school in India. We've just taken some water wells to Samoa. We've got prison ministry in Ethiopia. We've got child sponsorship in Bangladesh. And I took, I think, 500 audio Bibles to Fiji just a few months ago. So we've got two arms to our organisation. I head up both. In point of fact, I head up Australia, New Zealand and the UK, which I know it sounds a lot, but we also have a UK division. One of the things I have to tell you is that ministry is hard work. You'd all know that. It is hard work. And it's 24/7. And one of the things that we do here is I've got a team of 7, and we have state coordinators in each state of Australia. Now, after 50 years, I have to say that spreading the gospel has become very, very important, and we are driven by, I make no apology, Matthew 28:19, go and make disciples of all nations. And that's so important because I think a lot of us as Christians fail to understand. That's not a job just for the pastor or the church. It's for everyone. And it's a command. It's not an option. We have to make disciples of all nations. And I think a lot of churches, a lot of organizations tend to forget that. And I don't mean that critically. I mean that from a mere fact that we're caught up in our daily Christian lives, that we tend to forget what Jesus commanded us before his ascension. So look, bear that in mind. Matthew 28 is what drives us. Likewise, we are also driven by a new campaign we're launching very shortly in August this year, and that is love your neighbour, the second greatest commandment. Love your neighbour as yourself. And that's an international project. Just so you know, this year internationally, our head office is in Colorado Springs, along with a host of other Christian organisations. And we're celebrating 80 years this year, 80 years internationally. And of course, most of you or some of you may have heard of a chap called Dick Eastman. He was the founding father in many ways of Every Home for Christ. It started off as World Literature Crusade. And and of course it changed its name. And unfortunately, Dick got called home earlier last month due to an illness that he's been carrying for quite some time. And if you've ever read his book, The Hour That Changes the World, it's amazing that what Dick's saying is, hey, if we all prayed for 1 hour a day, we could change the world. And even me as a minister and as a pastor and a chaplain, I said, I'm going to try your method, Dick. And I did it, and I prayed and I prayed, and I looked at my watch and I looked at my, wow, I've only been praying for 5 minutes. And an hour is a long time. So Dick presents a very good model on how you break up your hour into prayer. So Dick Eastman is part of the organisation. We're going to Colorado in August this year to launch the Love Your Neighbour campaign. Can I just say to you that, New Zealand and Australia are very important to us from a spiritual perspective, apart from our close relationship. At our board meeting, we on Saturday last week, on Thursday of last week, it was decided that we continue to spread the gospel in New Zealand to everyone, everywhere, and every generation, because it's always important that not only do we do that through conferences, through meetings, through newsletters, through letterbox drops or whatever it might be, that we continue to spread the message of Christ. It's so important. Globally, I can report to you, with 171 countries around the world that we're part of, we've now reached 2.7 billion people with our message. However, that sounds impressive. But when you look at the fact that we've got 8 billion people, we've got a long way to go. And we're doing this under a program called Oikos. And the Oikos program is started in 2019, will finish in 2038, with the aim of getting the message of Christ to everyone, everywhere, and every generation. So that's where really I come in. I'm forever preaching it every weekend at some church or some Christian function. And it's interesting because I find so many variations within the churches. But you know what? It gives me great joy, as I was just saying to, I think, Elizabeth and Hugh. I've just come back from the border of South Australia and Victoria here in Australia, where it was a church that was actually based in a disbanded football dressing room. And wow, how impressive it was, because they had their worship music. There were about 70 people turned up, and it gave me a great joy to be preaching. Unfortunately, my wife wasn't happy because it was on Mother's Day, and but I did tell her she wasn't my mother. But that didn't get me too far in the good books. But again, how much joy it gives me to be at these places, and you know the place well, Border Town is the place. So what I'd like to do is, if I may, please, is to Hugh, if you could just show a video that will give you an idea of what we're doing in Australia and New Zealand. It's only a 2-minute, and then I'll hand over to you, Elizabeth.
50 years ago, Every Home for Christ in Australia set out on a mission inspired by Matthew 28:19 to fulfill the Great Commission. Go and make disciples of all nations. Today, that mission is alive and thriving. Every home exists to carry Christ to everyone, everywhere, in every generation. Our purpose is clear: to inspire and empower the church to carry Christ into their world. Through our international Oikos initiative, launched in 2019, we've committed to reaching everyone, everywhere by 2038. In over 180 nations, our dedicated local leaders and believers are building networks, empowering churches, and creating practical plans to share Christ in their communities. Despite disasters, wars, and even the global pandemic, our commitment hasn't wavered. Since 2019, Every Home globally has reached more than 2.2 billion people. From bustling cities to remote villages, Christ's love has been carried down every street and across every border. Here in Australia and New Zealand, we have a unique opportunity to continue this global movement. Together with our humanitarian partnerships in Samoa, Fiji, New Guinea, Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, Malawi, Ethiopia, and beyond, we can ensure that no one is left behind. Can you help us continue this mission? Your support can change lives and bring hope to millions. Visit everyhome.org.au or email ehc@everyhome.org.au to join us. Together, we can fulfill the Great Commission and make a lasting impact.
Thank you so much, Hugh. And I just make the point, that in one of the books Dick Eastman wrote, he has a question, and he says, how many disciples have you made this day, this week, this month, this year? And I think we're all faced with that challenge because it is a command from Jesus. We need to ensure that that happens. And that's what wakes me up every morning. And I go to bed every night saying, Lord, I'm so blessed to be able to work to carry the message of Christ to everyone. So that's the purpose of Every Home for Christ, evangelical. Every Home Global Concern is our humanitarian arm, and the two work hand in hand to fulfill that Great Commission.